It's Coastal Gardener on the Talk Station FM 107.1. And joining us this afternoon, Sean Banks of the Carter County Extension Agriculture Extension Agency. I'll get it right here one of these days. And we've only been doing this now for years, and I keep leaving out the extension. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Doing well. Enjoying this wild ride of weather. Cold, a snap. Oh, that leads me to a question. A cold snap, and then now it's warm and beautiful and spring-like and so forth. We've always talked about this in relationship to cold weather and spring.
Okay.
And every region has basically if you will, a kind of a deadline for a frost expectation, when you can expect the latest point for a frost.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what is our frost line at this point?
Here in Carteret County, our frost-free date is March 20th, give or take about 2 weeks. So we're right in the middle of that give
Okay.
2 weeks.
So we could have one in the second week of April or first week of April.
First week of April usually would be the last possible
Okay.
date for us to have a frost.
Any indication right now? Have you checked your weather?
My weather doesn't show it getting down to freezing again, but I didn't show a frost until Monday morning for Tuesday morning. So
Okay.
Mine evidently doesn't update fast enough.
All right. That frost didn't strike me as overly hard or long. If that's the case, is there a good possibility that there was very little damage done to those for those plants that the owners, such as myself, failed to adequately protect?
Well, I did do something this week because I kind of anticipated that question just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a place where I know there are some blackberries and some blueberries and some plum trees that were in flower at that time. Went out there to check that out, and it didn't seem that any of the plum trees were damaged at all. A few of the blueberry flowers were damaged, but not enough to destroy the crop. And there was a fig plant out there, and all the top buds that had opened up and already had really tender young leaves on there, those got destroyed, but the rest of the buds looked fine. It was just the top buds on there. So if you didn't protect your plants and you had something that was tender to a frost, you should be okay. If you lost the top few buds on the plant, they should bud back out. The one thing that I would be worried about would be strawberries, because some of those were flowering and would be very susceptible to frost. The pictures I saw on Facebook from a lot of the local farmers, they had their frost protection going, sprinklers and whatnot, and the strawberries looked like they were going to make it through there because it didn't last very long. So the sprinklers were able to protect the strawberries and didn't have to put down a whole lot of ice.
And just to remind folks how that sprinkler system works, and I mean that, I mean not how the sprinkler works. You turn on the water, but how does sprinkling or covering your plants with water, in light of the fact that they're going to this water will freeze on these buds, these plants, how does that protect the bud?
Okay, that's a lesson in thermodynamics. And so
whoa. I thought we were talking about agricultural issues here, not thermodynamics. I failed that class miserably.
We are, but there's a lot of science that goes into this, and thermodynamics is one of those with the ice thing. And what happens is, as the water freezes, it releases heat into whatever it's touching.
Okay.
And so as it freezes, it releases heat into the strawberry plant because it's freezing onto the strawberry plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to leave the water continuously running because as it melts, it steals heat from whatever it's touching.
Gotcha.
So the water is warmer than the ice. So as the water hits it, it steals a little bit of that heat from the water instead of stealing it from the strawberry plant, which protects the plant from freezing.
And I would venture to say it probably speeds the melting of the ice in the process, thereby assuring that the ice doesn't have any harmful impacts on the buds or the flower.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Hey, do I get a passing grade in thermodynamics?
We'll get you an A- there.
I appreciate that. We're talking with Sean Banks of the Carter County Agriculture Extension Agency, Cooperative Agriculture Extension Agency. That's what I keep forgetting is the cooperative part. We're cooperating with Sean today. The other aspect, and I know this, we'll get into the longer conversation. This is a week dedicated to master gardeners. Is that right?
Yes, it's National Extension Master Gardener Volunteer Week.
Okay, we threw the extension in, but what about the cooperative part?
Because the extension is the North Carolina Cooperative Extension for North Carolina is the parent for the Extension Master Gardeners. It just has to have extension on it.
Okay, but North Carolina Extension, pardon me, it's a week designated for master gardeners. Why, what's the purpose of the week?
Well, it's just to celebrate the fact that the Master Gardener Volunteer Program has been going on for 50 years now.
Congratulations.
And it is a way of people to learn what they need to learn about being an excellent gardener, and then sharing that information with people around them. So it's a way of them giving back to the community through educational programs, through answering questions, and helping others to learn what works best in our area as far as plants and things that you would need to do in order to make your garden successful.
We talked about this last week. The master gardeners are not necessarily required to have a lot of technical experience, as I recall our conversation, but it's a matter of having some, if you will, institutional knowledge about the area, about some of the questions that might be asked. This is really kind of an on-ramp to getting more information, if necessary, to the average gardener.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm kind of paraphrasing our conversation. My question now is, again, and to remind people, how many people are master gardeners, and what's the process of getting into the program?
Well, it varies. It varies by county. So different counties are going to have different numbers of people. In North Carolina, there's right around. Last time I looked at the numbers, a little over 2,000 volunteers across the state. And you become a Master Gardener volunteer by filling out an application, which asks for your name and phone number and email address, but it also asks for what kind of gardening experience, what kind of technical experience that you might have as far as classes that you've taken, that kind of thing. And that has some play into whether or not you get accepted into the class, but a lot of that is one of the other questions, and in my opinion, one of the more important questions is, are you willing to share the information or the knowledge that you have with others around you? And because what we're wanting to do is share that research-based information that we have out with the public so that they're growing things the right way, and they know that the activities that they're going to be doing will be successful. We want to make sure that people are going to share that information
and have the time and the skills and desire to want to share.
Right.
One of the things I'm thinking is that a master gardener might be able to connect, for want of a better description, with someone like me. I'm hesitant to call on a Sean Banks or a Tom Glasgow, Dr. Tom, out of, I don't know, maybe fear, intimidation, something of this nature. We're just maybe even awestruck. Right. Well, anyhow, we'll set that one aside. But my point is, I see that as an opportunity where when you tell me that John or Diane down the street is a master gardener and they would be happy to talk to me, I gather, I would venture to say that it's sometimes easier on the part of the recipient of that information, knowing they're getting it from someone who's like them or maybe even a friend of theirs.
Yes, sometimes that is a little bit easier, and a lot of times it comes down to the trust that they may already have. Sometimes that it's because they know they've been trained on that, and sometimes it's because that they've known them for a while.
All right, and back to the Master Gardener program, and this is what this week is identified as Master Gardener Week. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a lot of camaraderie among master gardeners? Let's say, for example, somebody's listening to the program and says, "Well, I'm new to the area, but I'm wherever I lived previously, I was actively engaged in gardening or ornamentals or whatever kind of plantings or what have you." My thinking is someone might hear this and say, "This is a great way to get to know people too."
It is. It's an excellent way of getting to know people. Here in Carteret County, we have about 30 to 35 Extension Master Gardener volunteers. One of the best ways to get to know other people that do gardening is to join gardening groups. We also have several garden clubs in the area.
Exactly.
And some of those do service projects, and some of them just get together to talk and meet new friends.
Well, back to that concept of a gardening club, and I'm curious about those as well. Is that a good initiation? Somebody wants to get more involved in plantings and gardening and things of this nature. Is that a good way to get started? Start with a garden club, and then you might even gravitate or graduate into becoming a master gardener?
Several of our members have started with gardening clubs and then got to know a master gardener volunteer that was a member of that gardening club. And then because of that friendship, they put in an application for the program and were accepted and have become master gardener volunteers.
We're talking with Sean Bank, again, with the Cooperative Extension Agency, Agriculture Cooperative North Carteret County, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Cooperative Agriculture Extension Agency. Is that right? Have I got it in the right frame?
Well, the technically the term that we're supposed to use is North Carolina Cooperative Extension in Carteret County.
In Carteret County. All right, Sean Banks with us this afternoon here on Coastal Gardener. It's Coastal Gardener on the Talk Station FM 107.1. And joining us this afternoon, we've got Sean Banks with the North Carolina Cooperative Agriculture Extension Agency in Carteret County.
Correct.
Oh, I did get it right. All right. We're talking about master gardeners and another aspect of master gardening. You mentioned a moment ago there are some garden clubs that have master gardeners in them. They are members. The whole concept of master gardeners, and we'll move on to other items I know you've got to talk about, but in light of the fact that this is Master Gardener Week, congratulations to all of them that have successfully graduated. I got to ask you about that. But before we do they go out and talk to people? Do they involve themselves in garden clubs, or maybe even go make presentations?
Well, some of them are members of garden clubs. One of the things that I do encourage them to do is to do presentations for groups.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
I've had master gardeners do presentations for some of the civic organizations. I think one did a presentation for a Rotan group. Several have done presentations for their garden club or another garden club in the area. We also do presentations at like the farmers market. We've set up a table at the Old Beaufort Farmers Market several times in the last several years, and had master gardener volunteers there to either talk about whatever they're celebrating that day. One day was Tomato Day, and so they talked about different tomatoes.
I like that.
But they were willing to, they have the knowledge and the basic information to be able to answer just about any gardening question. Or if they don't have the answer right there with them, they know where to find it, and so they'll take information down and they'll take it back to the extension office and do a little bit of research and then get back with you with the answer to the question.
Okay, and then final question on Master Gardener, and I've jumped right in with all these questions. What do you do at graduation? Did you have a graduation ceremony, cap and gown, that sort of thing?
Not necessarily a cap and gown. We do present them with a certificate that says that they've completed the class. They're now an intern. And then once they have finished the 40 hours of volunteer work that's required of them as an intern, then we present them with another certificate, usually at the end of the year, and a name tag that tells them they are now a Master Gardener volunteer.
Okay, so they do their volunteer program after they've gone through the full 30, how many classes?
It's usually about 13 or 14 classes, about 40 hours worth of training. So they get 40 hours worth of book learning, training kind of thing, and then they get to give back 40 hours of volunteer service. And then if they want to continue on, here in Carteret County, it's 20 hours every year after that with 10 hours of continuing education. Other counties may be a little bit different, but here in Carteret County, it's 20 hours of volunteer work, which is really easy to get, and then an additional 10 hours of continuing education.
All right, we're talking Master Gardeners here, and of course this Master Gardening Week with Sean Banks. Sean, what else have you, I jumped right into the issue of Master Gardener, and I always do that, but what are big issues of the week now?
Well, I did want to assure everybody that most of the strawberries in the area are fine. Most of the farmers had some frost protection or freeze protection that they were able to put on there. So most of the strawberries will be okay. We're not going to lose that red berry and all that delicious flavor that should be ripening up here in the April timeframe sometime.
What makes strawberries sweet?
It's
Is
the
it water?
sugar that goes
Is
in
it,
there.
but is it the I understand? But is it the water? In other words, if you have a wet season, are they sweeter, or a dry season they're sweeter? What is there?
Most farmers are going to have a drip irrigation system underneath the plastic,
Okay.
and so they're going to be able to regulate the amount of moisture that they get. If you are a homeowner with a strawberry patch, if you don't water them enough, the berries will be smaller. They'll be a little bit tougher. They'll still develop the flavor and have the sweetness, but they won't be as soft and juicy as the bigger ones that you get at the farm, unless you add the moisture to it. It's not exactly like a grape where the more moisture you get during the ripening, the less sweet the grape is. It's something that's completely different. So it's a different method of ripening. One other thing about strawberries that might be of interest is that swollen red part that we usually call the fruit or the berry. That's actually the receptacle of the flower that's swelling up and turning red and gets the sugar in there. The fruit is actually what we usually look at and consider to be seeds on the outside of the fruit. So it's the seeds are actually the fruit of the strawberry.
All right. I'll remember that, I'm sure. All right. The other aspect of this, and I did hear that the strawberry patches, the strawberry crop this year is coming in a little earlier than normal.
Yes. It's a little earlier, just like everything else. The warmer weather that we had in February sped those up a little bit, and there were a lot of flower buds getting ready they were elongating and getting ready to bloom when we started getting that colder weather.
You know, I'm surprised by that because I understand the temperature, but also sunlight. Does not sunlight have a role in that? I mean, I think about that in relationship to grass.
It plays a factor in both of those things, but if it was just the sunlight, then they would never start to flower until a certain time of the year when that sunlight got to be a certain length, because our sunlight length is the same every year on the same day.
Okay.
So it's not going to change just based on the sunlight. The temperature has a little bit to do with it. There's been at least 1 year since I've been here in Carteret County where it didn't warm up until mid-April, and so the strawberries were a little bit later than normal. So it's not just the sunlight; it's a combination of sunlight and the temperature.
All right, we're looking at strawberries. What about the other fruits out there, and including, by the way, any idea on watermelons, or is this too premature to even talk about the melons?
Watermelons are probably still seeds in a packet in somebody's pocket.
Okay, it's too early for that right now.
There may be some that have been planted and have just sprouted. Most of those would still be in a greenhouse of some sort. But watermelons don't generally get planted until around the middle of April. There may be a few farmers that plant some a little bit earlier, around the first part of April. But generally, they're going to wait until after any danger of frost because you don't want to lose those seedlings.
Okay, and blueberries?
Blueberries, like I said, I went out there and looked at some blueberries that didn't have any frost protection, and it looked like there were a few flowers that may have been lost, but it looks like for the most part, they'll probably still have, at least that farmer will still have about 75% of his crop that'll be able to make and have blueberries.
All right. Any other news today?
For next week, one thing that you might want to consider for next week is that next week is Small Farms Week. North Carolina A&T State University puts on Small Farms Week, and so they celebrate small farms all during the week. So March 27th through the 31st this year is Small Farms Week.
Okay. We'll see if we can't get a farmer in here. We were hoping to get a master gardener to sit in with us, but they were afraid of Sean.
Or the microphone. I don't know.
All right. Any other big events happening right now that we might want to be watching?
I don't know of anything that are coming up next week. I know that there are several events in the month of April because it's you got Arbor Day, you've got Earth Day, National Gardening Day. There are all kinds of days to celebrate being outside in the garden in April. One of the things is that's coming up, you might want to put on your calendar, especially if you're in Down East Carteret County, is that the Down East Library is opening a seed bank, and they're going to have a grand opening on April 14th at 3 p.m. And that's going to be, they'll have a lot of different seeds there, and they're asking people that have heirloom varieties to share some seeds with them, and they'll have a few seeds that they could share out with people so that they can try some seeds of different varieties rather than the ones that are just tried and true or the ones that you can get in the garden centers.
By the way, I want to make mention of something. You worked on a project for small seeds that are very how to plant small seeds. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yes, we did that at the Western Library on Monday of this week. And we went down there and we showed people how to glue the seeds to a piece of paper towel. And then once you glue the seeds to a piece of paper towel, you can space them out a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having a whole bunch of seeds that you have to thin out and pull out, you have the seeds spaced exactly where they need to come. And so if they all germinate, which they hardly ever do, but we can usually get 95% germination on most of these seeds. So almost all of them germinate. And then they're spaced exactly perfect so that you don't have to worry about going in and thinning them out later.
The glue doesn't damage the seed?
No, the glue is a water-soluble glue. So
Okay.
once it gets into the ground and starts getting wet, the glue dissolves and it's easy to clean up for school kids as well.
All right. We're coming into spring season, and of course, starting to work on yards and shrubs and things of this nature. Anything we should do over the next couple of weeks here, if assuming we don't have another major freeze.
One thing that you might want to do if you haven't already done it, if you have a rose bush that has had problems with black spot or powdery mildew in the past, clean out all of the mulch out from underneath the rose bush, get rid of all that mulch and put some fresh mulch under there. If you've had a hydrangea bush that's had problems with leaf spot on the hydrangea bush, that would be another good idea. Clean everything out from under the hydrangea bush, put some fresh mulch underneath the hydrangea bush, and what that does is that reduces the disease pressure early in the season.
Would it be wise to just basically seasonally remove all your mulch and just put fresh mulch down every spring, for example? Is that worthwhile?
Under all plants, not necessarily. I would concentrate on the ones like roses and hydrangeas that have really big problems with leaf spot. Plants that you don't have a problem with leaf spot on, like your camellias and your azaleas and butterfly bush and other things like that, there's no need to remove the mulch underneath there because it's not harboring any disease pressure that might get back up into the plants.
All right. Any other questions Any other issues?
I don't know of any other issues right now, but those are the ones that I would really concentrate on. And then as we get closer or a little bit more into April, then we can start thinking about planting some of those summer crops like the tomatoes and the peppers and whatnot.
Okay. And last question on soil samples. We're still paying for soil samples through month of April. Is that right?
Through the end of March. So
end of
April
March.
1st, it starts the free soil samples. So if you can wait for one more week, then you can send them in, or you probably put it in the mail on Friday and not have to worry about paying for the soil sample.
All right. Just want to mention that. To Sean Banks, again, with the Agriculture Extension Agency. And I would say this to all of you listening, wherever you're listening, you have a local Agriculture Extension agent in your community. Don't hesitate to give them a call.
Yes.
Here on Coastal Gardener, Sean, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.